Hi, welcome. Thanks for watching this video. My name's Ed Johnson. I'm a mathematics teacher at the Pheasant School, and you're probably watching this because I teach your son, and probably geometry, as I'm teaching all geometry this year. Behind me here is the entrance to Vernon Hall. Most of you have probably been through these terrific doors, this wonderful campus, this wonderful building, and this looks like it was in the springtime. I hope by the spring we're all back together, but in the meantime, I'd say it's probably 90% of us seem to be back on campus, and we really do yearn for everybody else's return. And in the meantime, we're doing the best that we can. And I really think we are. I'm very thankful to be on campus this year, and we are developing new processes to make things work as best as we can. I want to give you a bit of an overview of me and my teaching philosophy and geometry at Pheasant this year. So let me transition here over to a couple slides to show you. Hopefully this will be about 10 minutes. The very nature of this video is very much like what I'm doing some of this year in terms of a flipped classroom, where I record a video and then we get together later to answer questions, and the boys will practice in class. Not every lesson is this way, but I do like this idea where the boys get to watch the videos at home. I can get my message across succinctly, and they can pause it, they can find a quiet space, they can rewatch it if they need to prepare for a test or if they get interrupted. And especially for boys that are remote and they don't have to watch a lesson through an owl camera, which can be challenging in the classroom. They can watch the same video that the boys on campus are watching, and then they can zoom into a class for our practice problems. I teach mathematics. This is my 13th year at Pheasant. I've been a member of the 8th grade team all 13 years, which means I've had the privilege of going to Washington, D.C., I think 12 times. I think I missed 1 year. I coach squash and tennis, and I'm also a parent. My son did 10 years at Pheasant, kindergarten through ninth grade, transitioned to a boarder for his ninth grade year, and then went to he's still at Williston Northampton School as a junior. So I'm happy to speak to you also as a parent of an upper school student. So please feel free to reach out to me to ask questions. Let's go over a couple things about geometry. I'm sure all of you probably have some memory of taking geometry in high school, and it may elicit from you good feelings that I loved geometry, or maybe the opposite of that, that geometry was really a challenge. I know that not every boy that I teach will love geometry, but I hope to impart to them some of the joys of the topic and why it's important to learn, and I'm hoping to do that in the next few minutes in this presentation too. The boys will learn how to develop logical arguments, how to debate, how to build upon early steps to make a more complex idea that is defensible, that has a solid foundation. And that is also develops certainty, and it allows us to build on others' work. This is the idea of standing on the shoulders of giants. And we do that in mathematics, where we use theorems and postulates and properties to build more complex ideas. And if somebody ever asks you to defend why that's true, there's always a very good defense of logical arguments on why that works. It also reminds me of, say, a philosophy class that you may have taken in high school or college. The other part of geometry this year will be that we're doing a lot of algebra. Algebra comes back in high school or next year at Pheasant in Algebra 2. So geometry is almost a course that's a little bit off to the side, and I want to make sure that their algebra skills, the boys' algebra skills, stay strong. And so they need to have practice. I also recognize that last spring, we were remote at Pheasant and at most schools in America or internationally, and that there may be some gaps in algebra skills. So we're doing a lot of work on quadratics right now. The other part of our class, and what's really important to me, is to develop other skills and appreciations. GeoGebra is a wonderful software, but it's not just for geometry, and I hope the boys will use that open source software as they transition to higher level classes. I feel the same way about spreadsheets. It's something I use very frequently in personal life, but also as a teacher for managing and organizing as a teacher, and I think in almost any field, Spreadsheets are a really great skill to develop. And also the idea of probability or statistics and how to be a bit of a skeptic sometimes about news we're receiving, or the possibility of confirmation bias. That comes into play later this year when we do a project on something called the golden ratio. And I asked the boys to look for this special irrational constant in nature or in architecture or in art. But I also want them to have some idea of confirmation bias, that is it really there, or is it there because you're looking for it to be there? Um, I also, part of my philosophy is that I want the boys to be the mechanic and not just the driver. I tell them about how I drive to work every day in a car, but I don't really know how the car works. Um, I know there's an engine, I know I press the gas, I know there are wheels. I'm not a mechanic. In math class, sometimes we'll get formulas and we'll use them, but I want them to be the mechanic sometimes, where they dig under the hood and they see how the formula was derived. And I think that helps them remember formulas and know why they work. Because I'm not a big believer in memorization. I have some bad memories from college about having to memorize lists of things, and I don't think it's very meaningful. And to view the world through a new lens, we will be doing that project, like I mentioned, on the golden ratio. We'll be talking about fractals and how they show up in nature, and also how we can problem solve and how can we use geometry and our understanding of geometry possibly for projects. I am frequently down in the iLab making projects on the laser cutter or 3D printer, and mathematics plays a role, especially geometry, in a lot of those projects. Some flexibility in our new paradigm this year. The idea of flipping the classroom and making videos, being understanding of students who can't always be live in class because our classes are at different times of day. I hope students have patience with me, and I will certainly be as patient as I can be with them. And the last slide I have here is just to understand that at this age, the boys are developing, hoping to develop more of a growth mindset. There'll be lots of challenges this year, and it's not supposed to be easy. And there is room for failure. If you're doing a project in the iLab, often your first prototype and your second and your fifth are not going to work. If for these boys in geometry, working on a proof, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, allowing yourself to make mistakes, but then persevering until you know that it works. And I really do compare writing proofs to developing code and hitting run on a computer program and seeing if it works, and also interpreting a proof after it's completed to see if it works. Wanted to see where we are in our recording here. We are up to 8 minutes, and I want to do one more thing with you. I want to go through the website here and just show you a little bit around our website and your class page. So you can see I teach all 4 geometry classes. A couple things here. The Zoom archive is really useful for boys that are remote, but it's also useful for boys that are local. If they want to go back, well, if they missed a class, of course, but also before a test or quiz, they could go back to an earlier lesson and see what they missed. Our textbook is digital, and there are a lot of resources in the textbook. GeoGebra I mentioned before, and I do some tech tutorials. All of our assignments are digitized, and I gave some insight there on how to use different digital resources. It's like modifying PDF or scanning documents or using this thing called Cami, which is a very useful thing for everybody in terms of modifying PDFs online. And then my blog is here too. I hope you'll check that out. It has a lot of very interesting math problems. These are extra credit for the boys to complete. So if they're looking to earn a few extra points, you can ask them if they've completed the problem of the week. I think that's a really nice place to go. And this here, access to Google Drive folders. All boys at Fezenen have a Google Drive account, and it's how I am managing the submission of paperwork. So if I go into a class, you'll see how much work we've completed this year. All quizzes and tests are scanned and put into the mathematics folder. And you can see homework assignments because the boys scan and upload their homework assignments. Sometimes we'll do math journals, and parents have access to these. Um, you have access to these. Let me see if I can go back here through something called the Parent Portal. So if you want to see your son's Google Drive, not just for math, but for any classes, go back and do a Google search or a Gmail search for Parent Portal, and there'll be an email from Mr. Payne. If you have any trouble accessing this and you want to find your son's mathematics folder, you can look here. That's a little bit of an overview. I don't want to take too much time. Please, please, please reach out and talk to me. Send me emails. It is chaotic. Email's the best way to get in touch with me during the day, but I'm also available for Zoom calls, and sometimes I know that's early morning for some parents internationally, or more in the evening as well. All right. Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you for your time.